Hey everyone, I'm Emma Wharton-Love, co-founder of Spark AI, and welcome back to Spark AI Summer School. Today we have my colleague Matthew Maxwell with us. Hi Matthew.
Hello everybody.
Thanks so much for joining us today, Matthew, and thank you everyone for joining us online as well. So this series, we go behind the scenes of our AI Accelerator program, which is 3-month collaboration that we do with agencies and in-house creative teams, where we take you from experimentation with AI right through to structured adoption. So each week over the summer, actually late summer, we only started a couple of weeks ago, each week we share a short free demo or a framework that we use inside the Accelerator program. First week, Jules explored image prompting. Last week, Meta and I looked at AI and client services, and today Matthew leads on our AI and creativity work, so we're focusing there. We'll be looking at how to get the best creative out of AI, how to work with it collaboratively. I'll let Matthew talk a lot more about that. But first of all, Matthew, I'd love to know a little bit about your background and how you came to work with AI. I know this really well, but I would love you to tell everyone out there.
It might be easier just to work backwards, actually, because then you can kind of cut the story out when it starts to get irrelevant and dull. Right? I was born on a planet so I got into AI. I was getting a bit bored of working, to be honest, and I went back to school to do a PhD. And I was really looking at in art and design, and I was really kind of looking at data visualization and looking at how we could use landscape to describe better how the cloud works and how cloud data and this sort of landscape that we live in. And then halfway through that, ChatGPT launched, Midjourney arrived, all of these different technologies, and I realized that the cloud itself was redundant. It was no longer a space to explore. It was actually an intelligence to communicate with. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today, but I'm going to try and frame it in some of my experience of working as a creative director in a lot of different elements of design. Starting off, I spent the 90s in Hollywood working in film and TV, and I came back to London just as the internet was kicking off, which was useful. If you could turn on a computer, you got a job. And I worked in interactive agencies and then kind of advertising agencies as the web guy, and then moved into the experiential world and into experience design, and here we are now designing experiences for the future.
Well, this has a perfect background for this. Yeah. So I feel like creative teams are under quite a lot of pressure at the moment. Like, I guess the same client demands, but now there's AI in the picture as well. There's overwhelm at the number of tools. There's also the number of updates to those tools. There's IP, there's copyright, there's different loads of different things going on. Does that feel the same to you when you're working with our clients, Matthew? These are the kind of things that you're hearing.
It really does. It's complex. It's fast moving. It's all change. It's not the time to be sitting on your hands, which is good for me because it'll keep the Alzheimer's at bay for another couple of years, hopefully, by forcing me to learn new stuff. At the same time, because I'm quite a simple animal, so my tendency is trying to reduce things down to sort of basic principles that seem to hold water, and then build the knowledge off that. So that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about today, rather than getting into any great complexities of details about models and applications and functionalities and ethics and stuff.
Yeah.
Really, how does this where's the continuity with where creative development and creative thinking into actual commercial products, how does that work? How do we think about the AI to essentially do the same things we've always done, which is communication design and communicating interesting ideas?
Yeah. Well, should we get down to it?
Okay.
Let's do it.
Right. Shall I struggle with the all these screens?
And also, if you can hear building work in the background, I don't know if you can, but there's builders in the next door building to our office, and you've got the same.
It's going to be rowdy. It's hold on to your hats. We're going in.
We've got double building work going on here.
what could possibly go wrong? Right, so I'm going to go up here, and I'm kind of assuming you can see orange and green.
Hold on, I need to add you to the stage. There we go.
And I might just go like that to make it
perfect.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Right, so I want to talk a little bit about chaos, which feels appropriate for today with everything happening. We spend a lot of time talking about and thinking about and debating what we say we control the chaos, controlling AI's tendency to go off in all directions and create hallucinations and sort of misbehave in various ways. I want to just provide a bit of a counterbalance to that, or a counter thought about how we might embrace the chaos, and in doing so, we can hopefully achieve both things. That we can accelerate creativity, we can use these tools in the way that tools are meant to be used, but not use them in such that they stifle new ideas, or they automate things so there's no human in the loop necessary anymore. So as I touched on, I initially trained as an artist. I wanted to be in fine art. I wanted to be an artist. I went to LA to become David Hockney and become rich and famous, which never quite happened. But what I did find in the film business, and then subsequently in the design world, is just how much fun it is working with other people, which you don't get to do much as an artist. And these kind of creative partnerships and the creative relationships that you can set up. Particularly, when those partnerships are quite diverse, or people are bringing different things to the party. So I'm really thinking about AI as a creative partner, and a strange one, has very different capabilities to me, and a lot of sort of fallibilities. But really, the important thing is about not trying to treat it as a tool, as a servant, but working with the technology. Not just trying to figure out how to make the technology work for me, because if I was doing that, I would just be doing the same stuff that I've always done, but just sort of slightly faster in a kind of diminishing circle of repetition. And we don't want that. Life's too short, it's too dull, and you cannot sell it. So I wanted to kind of position this in a familiar environment, familiar to me at least, a very familiar scenario where our actually quite friendly but slightly vampiric looking account guy has come in and said, well, this is a great opportunity for us. The client wants something. They've got they're a challenger brand. They've got a new product. They need to cut through. They've got a great demographic strategy. They know their target. We need something fresh. We need something unique. We need something nobody's ever seen before. But this is my job. I don't want to get fired. Just make sure it works. Tried and tested, please. So there's these two kind of mutually opposing direct forces at work. Give us something new, but make sure it's not new. And this is not a whinge. This is just the challenge that you perpetually have of how do you create new things, but how do you get people to understand what it is you're talking and listen to you for the first 5 or 10 seconds. So short digression back 100,000 years of evolutionary history, although it is relevant. The two things one thing that we share, I think, with AI is this idea of pattern recognition. AI is it's why it's really good at spotting cancers, or finding you a good route through a crowded city. It's very good at scanning very fast and identifying how things fit into different categories. And that's something that the human eye and the human senses, which developed a long time before language, we had vision before we had words to describe it. Here we are on the savannah in Africa, and it's really important to check that shadow underneath that tree. Is that a bush or is it a lion? It's really important to know the difference. But then again, you can't spend too much time looking at every single shadow, because the lion will get you from behind. So we've developed ways of spotting patterns in order to be able to classify things really, 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 really quickly. But equally, if there's any kind of like break in that pattern, or if there's any divergence, that ignites our attention straight away, because that could be the lion. So it's one thing we're very, very sensitive to, and one thing that we share with AI. And there's a good example here of how marketing uses that pattern break to communicate via a kind of coded signal, something specific about a product. So in the case of Red Bull, when they launch Red Bull, of course, everybody knows how you do an energy drink. How do you do a soda? They all come in these exact same cans. They have that size. They look like little hand grenades. But Red Bull launched in a can which was significantly smaller. And that was a signal to suggest that, well, actually, this shit is really strong. It's going to blow your ears off. So you can only have half a can. If you look at the ingredients, apart from this taurine stuff, which again is another story, they all have similar amounts of sugar. They're actually the same strength. But the Red Bull used that pattern break in order to, and that was the little bit of creativity which broke the pattern. One of my favorite examples, and it's quite old now, but I think it's still valid, is Omo. Washing powder. It's hard to think of a more generic thing than washing powder. And at the time, the way you advertised washing powder was always the same, which was the perfect family, mum or the carer or the caregiver or the parent is doing the laundry. Everybody goes to school. They're all in gleaming white shirts. The laundry's on the line. So it's all blindingly white, so your neighbours don't think you're a slob. The problem with that is it's impossible. So every time you use the washing powder, you fail a little bit more, and slowly you start to associate this washing powder with failure and bad feelings. And Omo said, well, no, dirt is good. They just turned the idea completely on its head. So the sign of success is if you have to do lots of laundry because, the old man's out in the garden cleaning out the gutters, finally, the kids are all running around the park getting muddy. Every time you do the laundry, you're a winner. So it was a beautiful example of breaking the pattern. We will get back to the AI pretty quick, I promise you, but I think this is relevant because, it's easy to see how other people have done it, but actually, how do you go about disrupting patterns? And one of the philosophers and critics I've been learning about in my PhD is this woman, Margaret Bowden, who was writing in the 90s, really at the advent of AI and machine learning. And she kind of broke it down into these three categories to determine whether or not computers could do this. So there's three. There's exploratory creativity. And this is where you're working within a familiar guideline and rules. The 12 bar blues is a perfect example. As Ed Sheeran said, there is really only 4 chords. But with those, you can do an almost infinite amount of variation and exploratory creativity. You can change it every time and you can make something new. Combinational creativity is where you take, and you see this a lot in fashion, for example, where you're bringing sort of quite diverse influences. You have 2 very different things and you kind of smush them together to make something new and surprising. And the third one, which Bowden was a bit dubious whether AI could be able to do this, is this idea of transformational, where you're basically removing one of the rules altogether. And a good example of this is abstract expressionism, painting, where they said, actually, painting, maybe it doesn't have to represent the external physical world. Maybe we could use paint to represent the internal world, and we can paint about emotions and about the sort of nervous system and things like that. So I want to show you some examples of how we have developed that. When I say we, these are examples of one of the agencies that we've been doing the accelerator workshops with. And I was just thrilled with what they came up with. This is a kind of spec brief that we give people, Fable Foods. Excuse me. It's a kind of vegan mushroom-based food. And the challenge is to bring it to a very, very crowded market, identify the optimum target, and produce some creative work for it. So we would do the strategy part, and then the next phase is the creative bit. So we have 3 teams, 3 groups teams, and the first one I think is a really great example of that exploratory creativity, because when you look at it, you kind of know exactly what you're looking at. This is food porn. This is about flavor. This is about gorgeousness. You can see it's got the little kind of smoky bit. They went to a lot of trouble building this burger with mushrooms. But what the AI kind of interjected into it was, well, let's not do the kind of vegan, healthy, smiley, not killing a cow kind of upbeat stuff. Let's take it somewhere different. Let's take it into the noir route. Let's make it much more kind of, I always think it's kind of Addams Family approach, which I really liked. Flavor has a dark side is just a nice line. And some of these lines, again, being generated out of chat and out of Gemini and out of the language models, really kind of pushing the imagination in directions which we hadn't expected.
And Matthew, this was quite sort of short exercise, was it? Within the.
This is a day, so the stuff I'm showing you here is all done in a day. And this is no, none of it's finished. I mean, this is not finished work, but it was, I think, certainly for this agency, a real eye opener as what way they could use these tools to push themselves to, if once they embraced the chaos a bit and allowed the tools to accelerate the creativity without stifling any new ideas that they'd come up with. And the second lot, combinational, I think you have to see. So they went a whole 8-bit animation, very sort of super retro, made the whole thing really playful. So I really, and this is the same agency working next door to each other, came up with a completely different idea and built out some of these really quite fun and quite finished, proposals. As a kind of pitch proposal. Fun guy we trust, and just turned that little our little mushroom, and the mushroom character became, a happy little chap. And if we have time, I can show a little example of how we could take him and start to build him out, or her, or it, obviously. Yeah. Do mushrooms have gender? I don't think so. I think. And then the third one was, again, this transformational thing where they decided, actually, we're going to just ditch everything. We're going to ditch this Fable Foods thing. It doesn't work for us. What we're going to do is we're going to invent a new kind of food product. So starting with the idea of nuggets, which is a sort of universal food thing, or burgers. You could have, there are certain things which are completely. And I thought, well, let's make something new, and also let's change the name to something which is a bit more ownable. There was a few regional accents at work, and so it was called mush bites, which I really liked as a sort of mouth feel. The mush. It's something that would be fun to order. And again, just designed a few bonkers exhibition stands. It's, taking the brief. It's a challenger brand. We need to have cut through. We need to be completely different. It reminded me of things like bubble tea, and there are kind of various. I can't put them to mind at the moment, but you can see where I'm going. Just how do you introduce a new thing that nobody's seen before into a new market? So for me, these are really nice examples of both controlling the chaos, because they were using them quite carefully, as you may have seen Jules talking about how you can manipulate very, very, very precisely through the prompting and through the intention, but at the same time, kind of letting the horse have its. Emma, you're a country girl. What do you do with the horse? Have its head?
Is that the metaphor about taking your horse to water?
No. You don't rein it in, do you? You kind of let it go.
Let it run free.
Well, let it run free, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. It's about the expansiveness, I guess. This is what we're talking about here. Yeah.
So just in summary, really, sort of this is the relationship, and this is why it's important, I think, to acknowledge the difference and let the horse run free. Because, but at the same time, rein it in when it looks like when it's actually just bolting. So, generator and discriminator. This is a reference to the way that a lot of AI agents are built with GANs, generative adversarial networks. You'll have two networks that oppose each other. One of them is responsible for just generating ideas. And of course, AI is just inexhaustible fountain of ideas until you run out of credits, of course. The human, your role as a human, our role, I should say, is to go, okay, well, I'm not going to say no to that, at the same time, you know, I've got to fish through all of this stuff, and this is a new sort of skill that we have to learn now. Is how do you deal with the avalanche of ideas that this freakazoid is giving us? Because you know, it's a large signal to noise ratio. So the job of the designer is to be. Everyone's a creative director now. You have to you know, have this sort of division in your head of being able to discriminate as well as to be able to focus on the goals.
It's like a kind of totally new role in the studio, I guess. This kind of like push.
It is. Well, yeah. To me, it's everybody's just been promoted.
Right.
You know, you thought you had you thought you were coming in as a junior designer and you were going to get told what to do and, you know, learn a lot of stuff from the older people. Well, guess what? Guess what? You're in charge. You know.
Yeah, but like the AI is a role in itself, I guess, that you're in charge of. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's like a really, really super enthusiastic puppy that, you know, you've got to try and house train, and you've got to, but it, you know, you can't. But it has the energy, and it has the. Actually, I kind of like the wild horse metaphor more than the puppy.
Yeah, me too. Now, yeah.
Because there's no point in having a, you know, beautiful thoroughbred black beauty, you know, that can gallop at 35 miles an hour, and having it just pull a cart. It's the old Ferrari metaphor, isn't it? We probably shouldn't soak that one too much. So that's kind of it, really. I don't know whether you're going to go into a bit more detail on this separately, but to me, the way we run these accelerators is by chopping it into three parts. So you set up the brain in a language model in ChatGPT. You set up a project where you can start to collect all this knowledge. You can use it as a sounding board for your ideas. You can use it as the idea generator, and it's a great impersonator, because if you say, okay, well, what would a 14-year-old kid who's into skateboarding and 8-bit, what would they make of this? Would they make anything? And you'll get that feedback. You can work really fast. I mean, I'm a big advocate of ideogram, because you can generate ideas really fast. You can prototype things. You can get through all the bad ideas at first. And everything has just changed, of course. So your point initially, Emma, about, you know, looking at the applications and stuff, that's not going to go away, because Weavy, where this aggregation of lots of different models is being pulled together, and the interface has kind of really come on in leaps and bounds. So putting all those things together, I think, is what we try to help people do.
Yeah. So this is a creative work stream within the AI Accelerator, and I'll explain a bit more about what the AI Accelerator is as a whole, just right at the end.
Yeah. How are we doing for time? Shall I have a quick look at Weavy?
I think that would be awesome, because you've kind of, you know, dropped it in there. We need to now look at it.
Yeah. I went on holiday for 2 weeks and came back, and everything had changed. So that's what that's the challenge. So anyway, this is a little character called Tommy Tomato, who grew out of one of these workshops. Let's see if we can just get rid of that and switch around and have a look at Weavy. Where's it gone? Weavy should be there. No, that's not there. It's there. There it is. So many screens. So this is what.
We're not seeing it yet, Matthew. We're still seeing your PowerPoint. Yeah.
Okay. So we don't want to see the PowerPoint. We want to go to StreamYard and come out. Let me just stop for a second. Come back in again. We can do a crafty edit on that. Let's see if we can do this. Yeah, let's try that one. Can you see that?
Great. I will add you to the stage.
Woo.
Go.
Yeah, so this looks terrifying, and to me, because look at all the tools you have in here. Who has time to look at all these tools?
Wow, that is like actually, I haven't. Yeah.
Look at them all.
300.
Hundreds, millions, and probably more. They're all, you know how developers are. They just, you know, they think in terms of volume. But what's great about it is it has, if you're a visual person, you can actually build the kind of thought process, and you can build what hitherto was kind of hidden in your own mind or hidden in kind of workflows, and you can build a picture of it. And of course, once you've built one of these workflows and it kind of works, you've got a process, which means that you can roll this at work, and you can roll it out. You can roll out multiple versions. You can change little things, and you can adapt it. So you've got a repeatable, reusable tool, which we didn't really have before. We had sort of exciting things that which hit and miss, and the whole thing was about trying to control the chaos. This is a way of controlling the chaos, and I really hope it's also a way of sort of relaxing into being able to embrace the chaos. So this is our little character. I won't give you the full on because I think Jules did it better. But as you can see, you can start to almost sort of think visually by combining prompts together. And I thought, well, he's a little bit plastic, so let's make him look a bit more like an actual tomato, give him a bit of texture. You see he's got a little bit of sweat and a little bit more of that. Then I think I tried to put him in.
Tomato doesn't feel not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying this is me trying to learn how to do this stuff.
No, I love it. Just
I tried to put him in a little waistcoat as well. Here, I thought he'd be cute in this waistcoat, but it didn't really work.
I was loving his pink modernist background earlier.
Yeah. So here's his background. I don't know why I've put him into a sort of Renaissance Claude background. I've got this old painting behind me. It's probably seeped into my head. Yes. But it's kind of fun because very quickly you can take this character and you can start to build out a little storyboard. And also, rather than having to kind of figure out, well, should I be using, what is this one, Runway Gen 4 Turbo, or maybe I should be using Kling Video 2.1. Well, you can just run them in parallel and see what strengths and weaknesses they have. Yeah. So there's chaos happening here. It's a little bit scary. I'm not sure that's what I wanted. And other times, it goes completely bonkers. So I don't really, he's all gone a bit wrong. I quite like the cityscape that's happening behind.
Me too.
So I'm thinking, so this suggests sort of story scenarios and different kind of places that we could take him, and things like that. So
terrified and manic at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like that wild horse, isn't he? We've just let him have his head. Yeah. And it's sort of, he's got a sort of residual arm that's sort of had a bit of I think he's had a stroke at this point, which is not, it's not what we're after.
No.
But anyway, so that's
brilliant. I think that being able to compare the models side by side just in itself is incredibly valuable.
Yes, and that really gets over that issue that everybody asks about. So, for instance, here are all of the models that you could be using, from Mystic to Ideogram, Stable Diffusion, some of the classics, DALL-E 3, which is OpenAI's one. It's a bit redundant now. They've stopped really backing it. Imagen, the Googles, and as well as a lot of image editing stuff, which I haven't really got into yet. In painting, out painting, retouching, all sorts of things. So there's a lot there. But my principle really is, be open to what it can do. Like I said, that's, suddenly it's gone kind of weirdly urban, and that's gone back into the 8-bit. And also what's happening on this red, is this some kind of sport that they're playing? So using it like an imagination prosthesis, I've got eyes, but I can see better with the glasses on. I've got an imagination, but I could do better if you fed me some more, random stuff. My task is to decide what's irrelevant, and actually what furthers the goals of what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
Is that enough?
That is wonderful. Thanks so much, Matthew. That's super interesting, really inspiring, and great to both hear about the theory and the practice there. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what going back to school will do you. You get the theories become, dangerously more interesting than the actual practice. But
For sure. Yeah. But it's always good to be reminded when we're in the commercial environment to get back to that grounding.
Well, I think that is the role of the creative, element, is that you kind of have permission to do that. And actually that is your role, is to provide the counterbalance to the rationality sometimes, which can be very constricting. It's like, I think Rory Sutherland said, it's like, using rationality is like playing golf with only one golf club. You need the driver, and you need the putter, and you need the niblick to get you out of the sand trap.
I haven't heard that before. That's great. I'm just going to quickly show people what the whole of AI Accelerator is like in 1 minute. So Matthew's been talking about the AI for Designers stream of AI Accelerator. And alongside that, we also run AI for strategists and AI for client services. And then we work with leadership teams more on the strategic implications of AI on the business model, like the opportunities in terms of new services, perhaps, and the risks of it, and how to proactively mitigate against those. So an AI Accelerator typically runs for about 3 months, where we partner with an agency or an in-house team to work with all those different roles within the business. We absolutely love those partnerships. And that means at the end of 3 months, you have a lot in place. You'll have a 12-month AI roadmap tailored to your goals. You'll have deep AI skills across those different teams listed there. You have AI-enabled workflows just like Matthew was showing you, but tailored to you and your work. Comprehensive prompt libraries that are shared across the team, an AI policy, so really strong governance, with all the team trained on it, because often an AI policy gets created without people understanding it, and really that AI forward innovation culture. So we're as much about the people and behaviors and culture as we are the focusing on the tech and pushing the boundaries and finding the limits of that as well. So I actually had 3 more slides, but I forgot to flick through them. I'm going to do that really quickly just because. Why not? So we work with some really fabulous agencies. We also teach our AI for Leaders course at Oxford on the AI in Business diploma, the executive diploma. And we're super proud to be backed by Innovate UK last year to help build out the AI Accelerator. Well, fab. Well, without further ado, Matthew, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for thinking about those slides and putting them together, and super inspiring as always.
Always fun. This stuff.
Cool. So we'll be back this time next week with my colleague EJ, and we're going to be talking about AI for leadership teams. I'll see you then. Take care in the meantime. Bye.
Bye-bye.